And then I have a few more people that said they would join soon.
How long is the meeting gonna last?
Probably 30 minutes or less.
Okay. What are we gonna do?
I just ask Henry some questions, and I'll share my screen and everything.
Hey, what up, Henry?
Hey, what's up, guys? Is everyone here from Lambert?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. What grade is everyone in?
Pretty sure
go for
all of
juniors.
us are juniors, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is this a club only at Lambert?
Yeah. Oh, I think the club is like national, but it's like the chapter thing, just like how FBLA or DECA does it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got you.
Benji, are you gonna share your screen?
Yeah, I'll share it now.
Alrighty.
All right, can you guys all see that?
Yeah, it's working fine.
Okay, good. And then I'll give it like one more minute and then I'll begin. All right, here. Just disregard this. All right, so this will work by me asking like questions for the first part, and then once we're done with the 10 questions, we'll just open it up to everybody. If that sounds fine with you guys. All right. So first question, just who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm not that much older than you guys. I think I know a couple people. I mean, I know George for sure. Liam sounds familiar. I think he's that wicked smart guy from AP Stat. Yep, it is him. But yeah, so I just graduated from Lambert last year, class of 2020. Let's go. I was involved with student council, debate, FBLA at Lambert's. I'm currently on a gap year right now, so I am attending the Vanguard program at Honey Rock. Essentially, it's a Christian gap year program where we learn to lean into Christ and lean into community. And I'll probably end up talking about it later during the session. But my plan is to attend Harvard in 2021 as part of the class of 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So for the program that you mentioned, did you just how did you find out about it?
It's actually kind of an interesting story. So the church that my mom goes to, she's friends with the pastor's wife, and her son went to the program several years back, and she had told my mom about it about a year ago. But she said the name wrong. Is the thing. Like she called it like Vanguard or something like that. So like we had no idea we didn't even know what a gap year was. Honestly, we didn't even know that was a thing. Um, because not many people here, at least from Lambert, end up taking one. Um, but like so like we didn't really think that much about it. And then when COVID hit and I wasn't really very interested in attending Harvard just with all the circumstances of COVID and how the year was going to be set up. I was looking into gap year opportunities, and literally when I was at the end of my line of like being like, okay, I don't think there's going to be anything out there. The program came up again. Like the pastor's wife was like, no, it's not Vanguard, it's Vanguard. Like I just got the name wrong, and then I checked it out, and everything just kind of fit into place. And I felt like it was really just a God sighting, honestly, at that point of closing all these different doors, but opening this new one for me. So I've been very fortunate to be there unmasked for the most parts. Of course, we're following COVID protocols. But yeah, I've had a really great experience there this past semester. And I just came back 2 nights ago. And I'll be back there on December 2nd. No, not December 2nd, January 2nd.
All right, that's cool. All right, question 2. How have hardships molded you and allowed you to become a better leader?
Okay, we're already diving into this. So I think whenever someone says hardships, the first word that always comes to mind is this word grit. And I think that looking back over at least my spiritual journey, but also just my journey throughout high school, this word has come up over and over again. And kind of my mindset with going and tackling hardships is always just questioning, hey, do I want a life of ease? Like, would life really be interesting if I just got everything immediately, if I didn't have to work for anything? And, would, not to make this like always just a religious thing, but, would God really be speaking to us? And if he didn't place any hardships in our lives? And I was talking with a friend a couple nights ago, and he made a really great analogy about how hardships are really like, our life is really like a muscle. I don't know if anyone here like works at, I hope, does some sort of sport. But when you work out or when you play a sport, that whole process is this idea that your muscle gets ripped apart when you're working out. And of course, you're going to be sore for the next couple of days, but throughout that process of recovery, it's building back and it's getting stronger throughout that process. In the same way, that's how I view hardships, as in, yeah, it's going to break us down a lot. Maybe to the point where we can't get up immediately. Like I did calf raises with a buddy a couple days ago, and I don't know what happened. Like I wasn't able to walk right, dog. Like it was that bad. I could not, like, I was like on my tippy toes. Like everyone was making fun of me. I was like bending my knees for like 2 days straight. But now I feel like my calves feel like next level stuff, and that wouldn't have happened had I not broken that down. In the same way, I don't think we would be able to grow if we don't go through that hardship. And that grit, that aspect of grit, is what allows us to keep going. And I do truly believe that in all of our pains and failures, that is going to be useful for us going to the future. Whether that's going to allow us to empathize with others, or I think it really shows up in conversations where you're able to share your life experience, your emotions, your challenges, your pain, and really share that suffering with others. And that you're able to build a much deeper bond through that.
Yeah. All right. That's a really good analogy. Compare it to.
I don't take credit. It was my friends.
All right. Question 3. When networking and forming connections with other like-minded individuals, do you often have a particular goal in mind, or do you just maintain an open mind and see where it takes you?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and definitely one I've thought a lot about, just because I've always wondered, what is the fine line between like trying to network, trying to build up relationships and connections, but also not trying to use them just for their connection, and trying to be genuine about that process. I'll say 2 things. First thing, like for me specifically, I think it's been a little easier tackling this problem for me because I just naturally like talking to people. And I know not everyone is built that way, but I think a great mindset that I have, or like a mindset, not necessarily great, but mindset I try to approach every conversation is that a great man shows his greatness by the way he treats like little man. I think that's the saying. I might have butchered it. I'm not exactly sure who it's from, but it's this idea that you don't need to get something out of someone every time you talk to them, and that even the little people around, or like the little people around you, those who may not have value per se, even they are, such an important part, and that you can definitely still learn a lot from them. There's a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think that's his name, who says that every man I meet is my superior in some way or fashion, and that because of that, I can learn from that person. And that for someone of his like prestige and of his status to say that, I think all of us can take that to heart, as in that every person we meet is different from us, but they also has something that we can learn from. And my philosophy with just going throughout high school is that I don't need to get something out of someone from every conversation I have, and that sometimes I just want to spread a little happiness to others. I think an example of that was, lunch ladies at our school. A lot of people just kind of neglect talking to them and just go through the lunch line and pick up the trays, and that's it. But I think, I like starting freshman year, when I walked through that lunch line, I was like, hey, I really want to just make their day better. So, I started small, just complimented the food. And then, I thanked them for their service. Well, not the service, but thanked them for the food. And, then gradually, it just left a big smile on their faces. And I didn't get anything from that, right? I didn't have a goal in mind of, extracting value from them. It was more so just I wanted to, like you said, be open-minded, see where it takes you. And it definitely benefited me in some way later on down the road. Like they talked to me about the culture behind the food, or like, they were generous enough to give me food when I was late to lunch one day. But that wasn't my goal when I originally tried to talk to them. So I think that we need to be less self-centered, and that if we can't even talk to someone without trying to extract value from them, we're doing something wrong. And that sometimes just try to make someone else's day better. I think my second point with this question, though, is that being open-minded, there's like some caveats to that. What do I mean by that? I think I was having a conversation with a friend's dad, and something really insightful he said that, and I kind of asked him a very similar question. His kind of mindset in these kind of conversations, and he's a businessman too. He's worked in the private equity sector for several years. His kind of mindset is that you never compromise your morals, right? If you want to build up connections, like sometimes people will, compromise their morals just to be best friends with that person and say things that they don't actually believe in. Never do that, right? Always be truthful, always be yourself. And if they don't like that, if they're not down with that, maybe it's not worth, that connection. But the second thing is that if the conversation isn't going necessarily where like you want it to be going, A, have a plan for that, but B, sometimes you just need to back off. I think this idea of being insincere and genuine comes off really strong when you keep pressing them on. When obviously, they're not very engaged, but like you keep pressing them on, and that at that point it's super obvious that you're trying to, make a network out of them. You see them as a resource, not as someone you respect, because you would never do that to just someone random. So don't press on, just kind of leave them be, honestly, and just let your reputation speak for itself. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I think your like points of being genuine are like especially applicable now, since a lot of us are juniors and like we will be asking for recommendations in like the coming year. So we have to like, I guess, walk the line between being kind but not being like kind just for the sake of getting that recommendation.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of like how I've seen it is that I think your connection, your relationship should speak for itself. Like sometimes you shouldn't even have to ask. Like you should feel very natural. You should feel either very natural in asking, or B, it's almost like they ask you, like, do you want help? Do you want me to write a recommendation for them? Like, I hope your relationship with that teacher is strong enough to that point.
Mhm. All right, question 4. How important has formal education been in your experience thus far?
Um, it's a it's a simple answer, but it's also more nuanced than that. Short answer, yeah, formal education has been very important. I'm sure all of you guys know, going to the same high school at Lambert. Um, but I think the more nuanced answer is that both the positive aspects of formal education and the negative aspects of it have both at least equally as important. And I'll tell you the specifics. So the positive aspects for me at Lambert have definitely um, been my positive experiences with specific subjects. Like for me, as someone who's like planning to study business, classes like economics, like AP Econ, or intro to digital technology or computer science, like all those classes really fall in line with things I'm interested in. And being involved in FBLA, like they just kind of really pointed me towards business, and that was also very formative. In like those classes shaping where I want, like what I want to study. I know a lot of people, they took AP psychology and they realized, hey, this might be a career I want to go down. Another class that's been very formative, AP seminar. I don't know how many of you guys are taking that class. Highly recommend. So the gist of that class is that you can research any topic. And I really appreciated that open-mindedness and just the ability for us to study any interests that we have. And for me, I was really interested in global affairs at that time because I did debate before. I did debate throughout high school, and we studied, a lot of international affairs topics. So that year, for my individual research project, I talked about counterterrorism in East Africa. And for my group project, we talked about human trafficking in Southeast Asia. And that just kind of solidified that, hey, like this is something I want to possibly do, is just working on an international scale, because that I found out that's something I really want to, that's something I'm really passionate about, and that wouldn't have happened had I not been provided that platform by formal education. At the same time, though, the flip side of that coin is the negative aspects of formal education, which I also, looking back, it's like, wow, that was, if not more important, but just as important as the positive aspects. Is, I really struggled with science classes throughout high school. Like AP physics and AP chemistry were easily my two of my hardest classes. And I think part of that is that science always came slower to me. But I still really appreciated the experience because I realized that my natural talents couldn't carry me through everything. And that even though econ and math came to me faster, I realized that I had to get down and dirty and really grind through those classes. And it really, instilled those ideas of what we talked about earlier about grit and perseverance and, dealing with hardships at the time. Like when you have a borderline failing grade, like how do you bring, like that's really discouraging, but it's also very challenging moments, I would say. Very formative moments.
All right, question 5. What has been your biggest source of learning so far?
Probably Reddit. No, I'm just kidding. No, Reddit's awesome. I know a lot of people get cool information from there. Not sure if they're always credible though. It's a hard question. I would say I don't know about the biggest source, but definitely some sources of learning. Books have been very formative. Conversations with peers and with mentors have taught me a lot. Experiences, learning from failures, have definitely been all sources of learning. if I had to choose one though, I would probably say, and this is something I've come to learn this past year at Vanguard, this is idea of just journaling and reflecting. And this was actually my spiritual discipline that I took on while I was there. And essentially what I learned with journaling is that it's kind of a tool to reflect on a religious aspect, God's presence and his guidance and his nurture every day. But from a secular standpoint, it also just allows you to just slow down and reflect throughout the day. And especially when you go through kind of like the mundane and ordinary routines. That idea of paying attention to the small things that go on in your life, that's been very eye-opening for me. And it's like small things like that that allow me to, that have provided me of way with decision making, with transition phases. And it's a way of processing the goals for the future, your fears, your concerns, all those different aspects. And I don't journal every day. I don't journal. I try to journal a couple times a week. It's helped a lot being at Vanguard. But I really think that journaling is really at your own rhythm. And for me, I like to journal like some of the most significant events and transitions that have happened. But at the same time, that's not all there is to it. It's really at your own pace. And overall, I would just say like journaling has been really helpful with just processing, and you don't really have to worry about being judged for it. Like at first I was like, oh, these need to be in complete sentences. This needs to be in paragraph format. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to let anyone read this. Like, I can just scribble, scrabble, whatever I want, as long as I understand it at the end of the day. That's all that matters. Because, you know, it's really just between, it's a place for you and God to really come. It's not for anyone else to intrude on.
All right. And also like going back to your mention of focusing on the smaller details, do you have like any criteria or something to like discern between small details that are like significant and ones that you should just not really pay as much attention to?
I think there's a difference between like habits and things that are new every single day. And those habits can sometimes lead you to complacency. And that's kind of the detriment with that. I actually had a class at Vanguard about making your bed every morning. And these kind of like seemingly mundane activities throughout the day, like brushing your teeth in the morning, or, you know, driving your car to work, or, you know, making your bed at night or in the morning, things like that, going to class. These are kind of like activities that you do because it's part of your schedule. And that's kind of what I mean by discerning the mundane. Oh, also on that note, there was one really fascinating study in that article where the author kind of like calculates what percent of our life are we doing, like are we spending doing the mundane, doing these like habits. And he calculated everything, all the different factors. And of course, it's a little bit different for everyone, but it was like 45% to like 50%. And he was like, nearly half of our life is doing these habits. It's like driving our car to work, like taking the bus to school, things like that. And I was like, holy cow, it's a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah, I had no idea it would be that significant. All right, question 6. If you could name just one person, who is your biggest inspiration?
Not a lot. Definitely, like I've appreciated the mentors I've had throughout high school, like advisors of clubs, counselors, Coach Bass, Hook'em Horns. And I appreciate just like being able to go into their office and just talk to them whenever. The doors are always open. I'm sure you guys know. But I would say like if I had to choose one, probably have to be Miss Endo. I'm not sure if she was still here when you guys were here, probably as freshmen maybe. But she was a counselor. She was a 9th and 10th grade counselor. a couple years back, and she's moved to Maryland since then. So she's technically my counselor. She was also my Compass advisor, and she was my teacher for a year. She taught a leadership class my junior year. But beyond that, like she's also definitely been a great mentor and role model, and I even call her my second mom sometimes. But like I got to know her freshman year, just like as my counselor, but getting involved with the Compass, and she invited me as that one freshman to go to the state convention that year, the state student council convention that year, and attending that convention really sparked our work for the next 3 years. And my sophomore year, I served as district representative, and my junior year, I served as state president, and she was my advisor for both of those years. And when we were state president my junior year, so we were the state president's school. We planned a 3-day convention for over 700 students and advisors, which just we spent all year, like several months planning for it. Like it wasn't easy at all. Like there was a ton of challenges and setbacks, more so than I can like explain in this short call. But like just the important thing was that throughout it all, like, and it was just there by our sides. And again, like as a mentor, but also just an inspiration sometimes to keep going. Just to kind of like illustrate how like much it meant to me, like every single day during lunch, my junior year, me and my friends would always go to her class. I'll go to her like counselor room, and her room was always filled. And I think that's just a testament to how much she loved the students. And there's definitely not a lot of teachers like that nowadays. But like overall, I didn't just see her as a superior, but just someone who really cared.
All right, question 7. In general, what do you predict the future to hold, and does it excite you or scare you?
Wait, give me 1 second. I'm gonna turn on the lights. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
In general, what do you expect the future to hold, and does it excite you or scare you?
Well, I was planning on attending Harvard next fall, and definitely excited for that, but also a bit cautious. Because while it is a great school, there's definitely going to be a lot of challenges and like you said, setbacks that happen. It's not going to be an easy environment at all. Before that, though, I am planning on returning to the Vanguard Gap Year program on January 2nd. And I'm super pumped about going back. It's a tight-knit community, about 50 people. There's Vanguards, there's fellows, there's graduate students, there's professional staff. And everyone comes from all over the country, different denominations, different ages. And I'm just excited to lean into those relationships and really dive deep and further build the bonds that we started first semester. But beyond that, though, there's like at the program, we do a lot of outdoor leadership. So like going out into the wilds, and we did a backpacking trip to Lake Superior for a week. 50-pound bags was not easy. We had a mountain climbing trip to Devil's Rock and Lake Michigan. My forearms were just massive after that trip. But yeah, like we have snow. We had snow back in like October. So we've been able to play like broomball, hockey, just a lot of ton of fun outside sports. But it's more than that also. Like it's given me a lot of personal time to just reflect and journal and read, more so probably than all my years in high school, honestly. But also it's helped me develop practical skills. So we have work rotations there. And I worked in the kitchen for 6 weeks. And now I'm currently working the office. So that's allowed me to develop practical skills of, cooking, which is pretty important in college, but also just like business and IT analytical skills working in the office. So also definitely appreciative of that.
Sorry about this. I'm gonna pause the share real quick so I can extend the time. All right.
No worries. Also, by the way, if you're looking at my background, it may be a little misleading, but this is not my room. It's my sister's. Don't typically put up ponies and never mind. Just in case if you're wondering. Are you guys still in school, out of curiosity?
We had to
Shut
switch
down.
to virtual.
Yeah,
Wait,
we got
you
shut
guys
down.
again?
Yeah, the second time
Today
this
we got shut
semester.
down.
Wait, it's for the rest of the semester?
Yeah, but I mean we're about to go to
Until
winter
after
break
break.
anyway.
What? So when is finals week? Next week?
This week. It starts this week.
Starts this week. Yeah.
Good luck, guys. Junior year finals, not easy. Especially if you're taking 6 APs, like I did. Wasn't smart. Does anyone have Wilson for A push?
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Yes.
How's that
Yeah.
go?
It's okay.
Don't have nearly as many opportunities to have good grades in that class.
I was about to say, yeah.
She's a pretty cool teacher, though.
Yeah, she's a great teacher. Just she's a tough grader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Half the kids in my class are crying this time last year.
Yeah.
All right, I might have to send a new link out because we're running out of time. Is that fine with everybody?
Yeah.
All right, I'll just send it in the group me, and then George can send it to Henry.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, I'll see you guys in a minute then.